Welcome back. Let's talk about the use of Google Docs to write your book. Hi, I'm Hananya Leclerc. I am a multi-genre writer who shares tips and tricks and talks about her life. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video. So Google Docs is probably the most like Microsoft Word, which is kind of the industry standard if you're working with an editor, an agent, and stuff like that. I personally don't have Microsoft Word on my computer, so I tend to use Google Docs for a lot of collaboration stuff. And if people are used to using a Microsoft Word kind of word processing tool, then that is a recommendation that you can use that as well. You can import Word documents and you can also save Google Docs as a Word document. So without further ado, let's just kind of dive into how I would use it. As kind of Scrivener is a paid one and not necessarily the cheapest option out there, I want to talk about Google Docs as well. Google Docs is free if you just create kind of a Gmail account, and then you will have access to Google Docs, spreadsheets, stuff like that. I tend to use Google Docs for writing when I'm collaborating or when I'm sending my writing, for example, to beta readers or critique partners and stuff. I tend to use Google Docs because it's easy to access and it's just a nice way to kind of collaborate if people don't necessarily have anything that matches in their word processing tools. The way that I usually tend to use Google Docs is I have like the summary pane open on the left, which kind of gives me the feeling of the Scrivener binder on the left side, just because I can then kind of just quickly go to different sections. So I just kind of want to show you that as well here with this blank document. Currently I don't have it titled or into anything, so we're just going to call this a test document. And then this is where you start typing. And I basically just start with like chapter 1, for example, and that will be the start of my document. Or I could even call it like information or general information if I wanted that to be my first kind of page. So if I do general information, that can potentially be my first little section where I would include like character, I can't type once people are watching, character, descriptions, locations, stuff like that could go into the general information section. And then the chapter is where you would start actually typing your text. So you can also format this as kind of the way Scrivener formats it. So in Scrivener, it automatically kind of indents the first line of your paragraphs, and that is usually kind of standard in a book formatting. So if you want to do that as well here, you can do that as well. I'm just going to quickly copy some lorem ipsum so that I can show you what I mean. As you can see kind of now, there's not really a clear distinction on the left side what the next paragraph is. There is on the right side by this little gap here, but it doesn't really show you a lot. So what you can do is format this. But before we get into that, I'll just quickly show how I would set up my document in Google Docs. So I like to use this outline summary section. As I said, if it doesn't show up for you and it's kind of like this, you can click this show document outline, or if you go to view, you can also say show outline right here. So the way that I use this is I use the kind of headings and stuff here. So usually normal text is whatever you're using as the base text of your document, and then I like to use the headings. So this can be heading 1, for example. If you have character descriptions that you want to include, you can do this header 2, same with this, and then this, for example, can have just text in here. So this is text as well. And then that can be kind of your folder section, if you will. The same goes for like chapter 1, for example. You can again make that a heading 1, and then that way you can kind of jump easily to different sections. So if I would copy this over, and I'm just going to do the same thing and call it chapter 2. Now I have 2 sections. Now I don't like it when it's like this and it just continues. So I like to do this in like kind of a page break. The way that I do this on Mac is Command Enter, and it will just kind of go to the next page. I'm sure there's like a different one for Windows, but probably the same. It's probably going to be Control Enter, and that's how you kind of move to the next page. And that's what I tend to use because I like it when it's kind of split up like that. So I'm going to do the same thing for chapter 1. So that is a separate page now, so that it's a little bit more neat in a way, if you would want to call it that. So I'm going to do the same for locations, and then going to do the same for character descriptions, and then this is just general information. I accidentally grabbed this back. So then character information, general information, this is currently set as heading 2, so we can set this back to normal text if that's what we want to do. And that's a very quick way of kind of giving yourself an outline here on the left side. So now if I'm like writing and I'm like, oh, I want to go to chapter 2, I can just click on it and it's going to take me to chapter 2. And if I'm then thinking about character descriptions, I can quickly click on that and then we'll jump back to that as well. I do want to say with Google Doc and just kind of outlining it like this and including everything of your book into one document can end up making your document very slow, just because Google Doc will have to load all of those words. And if you're writing, like for example, 100,000 word book, which I have done in Google Doc, it's a little bit heavy on Google Docs in general, so it might not load as fast. Just be aware of that. But other than that, it is a good way to kind of structure it and quickly jump between different sections. So I just want to show you the formatting of this paragraph. If you want to, for example, do the same kind of style as in Scrivener with the indentation of the first line here, the way that I would do it is go to Format, and then you have align an indent, and then you can do indentation options here. So here you can say what you want to indent. I think usually it's like 1.75. For example, that you can use is something that I found was nice, and then it's usually the first line. So you even do this 1.75 then, I guess. There we go. I guess you use this there. Yeah, so you can use the first line and then type in the value that you want, and then if you apply that, you can see that it indents kind of that as well. You can also do the layout stuff of like how much line spacing you want or stuff like that. So I usually do 1.5 when I'm writing in a Google Doc, and then do the indentation as well, just because as you can see it kind of looks a little bit neater, at least in my eyes, and the way that I view a document and the way that makes sense in my head. This just is more pleasant for my eyes personally. So that is a little quick way of kind of setting up a Google Doc to kind of go over your different sections and jump quickly to like different sections. So here I can go chapter 1 and I can go back to general information, I can do chapter 2, go back to character description, go back to chapter 1. So it just kind of gives you a quick way of switching between different sections with this outline feature. So that's what I tend to use most. And that's a little bit on how I use Google Docs. I have seen other people kind of use Google Docs with the Google Drive function, where you can kind of combine everything into one folder and then open different documents for different things. So open like chapter 1 in a different document, chapter 2 in a different document, which I'm assuming is like a quicker way. If you're writing a very long book, then that is probably nice to not have to load everything in one go if you write 100,000 words in a document. But for me, that means I have to go back and open something else, and that way, I don't know, it takes me out of the process. So I like to be able to kind of quickly like click here and there if I want to just switch between different chapters, different sections, stuff like that. So that's why I enjoy kind of the outline on the side, just so that I don't have to open different documents each time I want to find something else. So it's a little bit of an overview on Google Docs. I know it's a very, very short overview, but that is how I would set it up if I were to write my book in Google Docs. And I definitely have done in the past, so I don't know, I would recommend it. It syncs very like actively on 2 different devices, and it's a nice way to be able to access this on multiple devices at the same time and not worry about like syncing issues or worry about, oh, I don't have my computer that I have it on with me, and it just kind of, you know, saves it somewhere that you can access it no matter where you are in the world. So that is kind of what I enjoy about Google Docs and being able to use it kind of anywhere. So I would not necessarily be like, oh yeah, you should use it all the time, but it is a very, really nice thing and I would recommend it. None of this is sponsored, so don't worry. So yeah, with that, I think I'm gonna leave it here. If you have specific questions on Google Docs that you want me to answer, leave them down below, or if you have other questions, let me know and I'll try to get back to you. I try to reply to every comment that I get, so looking forward to hearing from you, and hopefully we'll see you in the next video.